Hello everybody and welcome back to Odin's Movie Blog. I am the critic who is a cynic. Hope you're doing well, and today we're talking about Endgame once again. As you can see, we are still talking spoilers here. I've had a couple people in the comments saying, oh, you could have done a spoiler alert, and it's gotten to the point now where the movie's been out for a week, and if you're seeing any videos that have to do with Endgame, most likely there's going to be spoilers in it, unless you see that very friendly reminder in the title, spoiler free. So we're going to talk about here about how Endgame's time travel honestly does not work. And I know there's a bunch of people that are saying, oh, you need to really make a video to explain how you're able to justify time travel not working. And here's the thing, I really do want to make that video, and I plan on making that video, but I also want to make sure that I'm able to actually have the Hulk's words in, like in perfect alignment, have the Ancient One's words in perfect alignment, and also go back and watch Doctor Strange, because Doctor Strange, obviously with the Time Stone, has certain concepts of time and time travel within it as well. And so I want to make sure that the rules that were set by the MCU as far back as Doctor Strange are actually consistent, which I don't believe they are, with Endgame, and of course have all those comparisons. But another reason why I'm kind of dragging my feet on is because I don't really need to, seeing that Marcus and McFeely, the writers of this movie, don't even agree with their director on what time travel is like. See, this is also the biggest problem, is that they basically created a version of time travel that was purely there to benefit the story they wanted to tell. They did not care if it made any sense. They did not care if it totally just broke down the narrative and made it impossible to suspend your disbelief. Like, and that's the reason why I didn't like this movie, because objectively it's so flawed, the story itself is so flawed that I just immediately got taken aback and said, wait a minute, this doesn't make any sense. This is not how any of this works. This is not logical. And if you go ahead and look to this article, and you go ahead and look to the fact that the writers and director are on different pages on the same concept, I'm sorry, but if that does not tell you that this is a broken universe, that this is a broken story, I don't know what else will. Again, you can go ahead and justify it. You can point me to videos that are going to say, oh, you see, this is how they explain it. The problem is that they don't explain it the way that the people in these YouTube videos do in the movie. They don't lay out those ground rules in the movie. They don't make that clarity available in the movie. And even if they did, you have a director and a writer now who are clearly going against one another when it comes to what time travel is actually like in the movie. And so, as you can see, Marcus McFeely and also Marcus and McFeely, again, do not agree with the Russos when it comes to time travel. And so this is all based off of an interview they did with Fandango. And so Marcus says, that is our theory. We are not experts on time travel. That is very obvious by this movie. But the Ancient One specifically states that when you take an Infinity Stone out of a timeline, it creates a new timeline. So Steve going back and just being there would not create a new timeline. So I reject the Steve is an alternate reality theory. And so therefore, the same thing. So basically, when you don't know what the Russos said that Steve is, creates an alternate timeline by going back and living out his life with Agent Carter. Here's the problem, though, is that if these writers are correct and a new timeline was not created, then what you are saying then is the same timeline is created, and therefore it is the same Peggy Carter, meaning that Captain America went back in time and totally took away and erased from existence her husband and her kids and the happy life that she had beforehand, which totally goes against everything that Captain America had stood for. You see how you have a problem on your hands, because either the time travel just becomes a giant mess, or when you try and say, oh no, it's very clear and simple, because time stones, because all the stones were returned to the original time, everything is now fine. Okay, well no it's not, because now you've just destroyed one of the best characters in the MCU by making him a complete narcissist, which is not anything as to what he has always stood for. Go back to the first Avenger. Go back to that first Captain America film. Even though I personally don't like it, it makes very clear that he is a dude that wants to do things for other people. He is never self-centered. He is never self-focused, ever. Go throughout the history of all of his movies, and that is never his personality. Even when things are grim, even when he loses his best friend, he still only cares about helping others. Which is why the ending where he gives the shield to, to Falcon also makes absolutely zero sense. And what's crazy to me, what really frustrates me, is that the Russos have seemed to indicate that because of this timeline nonsense, it could be that because Steve Rogers lived in this alternate timeline, or again, if we're to believe the writers, that it was the same timeline that they existed in, oh, well, maybe he ran into Bucky and explained to him what was going on and to why he would give the shield to Bucky, why he would give the shield to Falcon, which, again, just from a logical standpoint, makes no sense, even if he does tell them, because Falcon does not have super serum. Falcon cannot actually wield the shield because he does not have the power to do so. But as you can see, we've got two very different versions of time here. And also, the writers, the people who wrote this movie, also forget, they're quoting here the Ancient One. Here's the problem with quoting the Ancient One. She also said that all of the stones, the entirety of all of the Infinity Stones themselves, maintain the flow of time and reality. So, therefore, she says, if you just take even one stone out, you create a divergent timeline that will go into chaos. So therefore, according to them, and according to this justification, timelines are only created when a stone is taken out. However, if we are to believe that, and also to believe what the Hulk says in the movie, because remember, the Hulk also establishes that when you go back in time, that becomes your future, meaning that it is a new timeline. It contradicts itself. So now you have the writers contradicting their own writing, which is just, crazy in the first place. And then also now you have the directors and writer not on the same page. Can't you see why I'm so frustrated with this film? Can't you see why this film frustrates me so much from an objective standpoint? Because as you can see, not even the people behind the camera were on the same page when they wrote this story. Not even they can agree even now as to how time travel actually works. And when you try and go deeper into it, when you try to actually, ask them further questions, you know what their response is going to be? Just like it has been with so many people in the comments, being oh, you're digging too much into this. You're digging too much into the weeds. No! This is a basic, you realize that the basic premise of this movie is we need to go back in time to save it? So if the basic premise of this film, of time travel itself, does not work, I'm sorry, but yeah, you've got no leg to stand on at this point. You've got no leg to stand on this point. Even if you can try to explain it to the best of your ability, the fact that you have writers and director not on the same page with their basic precept, the basic plot point, the basic plot device for the film, I'm sorry. This is a giant mess, and if you're still defending it, I'm sorry, subjectively, again, you can enjoy the film all you want to your heart's content, but do not try to have an objective conversation about time travel here, because obviously even the directors and writer can't even agree on how time travel actually works. So again, is Steve in an alternate reality or is he not? Never made clear. The writers have no idea, and the writers contradict themselves. Not to mention, since the Ancient One herself, they're quoting the Ancient One. The Ancient One also, again, says that all the stones maintain time and reality. Okay, so therefore, in the present, how is time and reality actually being maintained? Because all the stones have been destroyed. Some people might say, oh, no, it's, if you clearly listen, Thanos says he reduces it to atoms. Yes, that means it's a metaphor for he destroyed them. Because if they were just the size of atoms, guess what you could have done? You could have gone into the quantum realm and found them that way. Oh my gosh, shocking concept, right? But no, couldn't do that. Couldn't actually make a sensible story. And this is the reason why, suspension of disbelief can only last so far. You have to set rules and follow them. When you start to break those rules, that's when people start to say, whoa, 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 wait a minute, this doesn't make any sense. It's the reason why we have issues with The Last Jedi. It's the reason why when the hyperspace ram starts, and happens in the movie, you're thinking to yourself, wait a minute, this does not actually match up to the rules that they've already pre-established in other films, and now it makes the question, if this has been possible the entire time, why did so many people have to die when it came to the Death Star or anything else? Rules are important. For any screenwriter out there. Now, I'm not an expert on writing itself, but I know, I'm a basic, I know enough to be able to say when you set rules, you shouldn't break them. They set certain rules. They didn't even know what those rules were. As you can see, they're contradicting themselves, even in their own writing. But then also, they're on different pages. And so the director is going to do certain things that the writers did not originally intend. And now you've got a giant cluster. And it's a huge mess. Not only that, but also you have this other thing that happens where they create the eternal youth. They literally create the fountain of youth in this film. You may have missed it. I know I missed it myself. But here on bleedingfool.com, they talk about how, remember how Ant-Man, when he's realizing time travel is potentially possible, and him and Hipster Hulk are trying to work these things out, and then all of a sudden Ant-Man becomes different ages? So basically what they've done and established is that if they can do that on accident, it means that they can probably reproduce it, and they can probably, perfect it. Basically, none of the Avengers have to age. They could go to Old Man Cap and say, hey, Old Man Cap, what we can do is we can just point this laser at you and we can make you young again. The Fountain of Youth has been conceived in this film. And yeah, it was meant to be a joke. It was meant to be a funny part. But you know what? As he said, you got to be able to create certain rules and follow them. But now with time travel being brought into the universe, everything has become a giant mess to the point now where you can literally stay young forever based on the premises that are existing in this film. Anyway, guys, what are y'all's thoughts about all of this? Seriously, I know that some people are getting tired of the Endgame hate, but I'm sorry. Sorry, not sorry. I will always talk about issues with film. I will always try and break these things down. I went into this film. You guys know. I went into this film. I was so overhyped to see this film. I really did. And I'm not even talking about some of the more woke elements that frustrated with the film. I'm talking specifically about the basic plot points, about the basic elements of the plot that just don't match up. This is very frustrating, and to all the people out there, all the shills out there that are defending this film and trying to say, oh, I'm going to spend 10 to 20 minutes talking about how time travel actually works in this film. The problem that you have is that that's not what is laid out in the film, and that's what's most important. It doesn't matter what your theory is, it matters what's laid out in the actual film itself. And by the very fact that you have writers and directors not agreeing, and also the writer themselves contradicting their own writing by quoting the Ancient One, but forgetting the other thing the Ancient One says, tells you all you really need to know. Especially since what the Ancient One says does not totally match up to what Bruce Banner says. Because you either have the same reality or you have alternate realities. They say it's the same reality. Whatever. Anyway, guys, we'd love to hear your thoughts about all this in the comments below. If you like this video, smash the like button, give me a thumbs up, give me a subscribe, seriously, because this video is going to get a ton of hate because no one likes to hear the truth when it comes to this movie. They'd rather just turn their brains off completely and enjoy it. And again, I know that popcorn films normally are able to do that. The difference is that the Endgame movie, the MCU itself, has never really been a full popcorn flick franchise. It has been a mixture of really talented writing and directing and also a fun time. It's not just been total. It's not like The Meg, for example, where it's a giant megalodon shark and it's not supposed to make sense. You know, that is a popcorn flick. That movie is supposed to have holes in it. When it comes to the MCU, there are supposed to be consistencies that, you know, last throughout it. And if the excuse is going to be just turn off your brain and enjoy this a popcorn film, then what we are doing is now we are saying, okay, yeah, so we no longer expect any greatness from the MCU. Now they can just do whatever the hell they want, and it doesn't have to make any sense. And that is not where I stand on this. So I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. And as always, guys, please share this video if you possibly can. Love you guys. Have a great one. And as always, God bless.